Next, we look at authentication methods. So, authentication is just a process of proving your identity in order to gain access to a system. And often we use passwords. If you have your computer, for example, or your phone, and you want to have access, often we put in some pins or passwords in order to have access. Now, however, beside the traditional method of using the username and password, there are other methods of having access into a system, and that include the zero login, biometric, magnetic stripe, smart card, physical, and electronic tokens. So we'll take the first one, which is a zero login. So typically, this zero login make use of biometric plus behavior patterns in order to have access to a system. And so let's take a typical example. So assuming I have a long password that is about 40 words, and I take 10 seconds to type in all those 40 words. Now, another person get access to the same device, and and is able also to have access to my password, which has all the 40 words. But however, the person takes about 30 seconds to type in the same password. Now, because the system has studied the behavior or the way I type in, the typing speed, even though the person has logged in the correct password, it will go ahead to verify by providing another layer of security to authenticate whether I'm the same person typing in that password. So that has to do with typing speed as far as behavior is concerned. Now, another can also be with location. So typically, you can travel to a different location to type in your password or you are using your system. So if you are the same person and you are using your machine, let's say you're in a country, let's say you're in Ghana and you travel to the US and you are using your machine, the system using GPS will identify that your usual location of logging in into your system is Ghana, and all of a sudden it has changed into US. So again, there'll be another verification before you are able to log it into your system. So there'll be another layer, a security layer, to ask you one or two questions or ask you to verify by going into your email and entering in another verification code in order to have access to your system. Now, that approach is useful so that if another person or a hacker somewhere outside your jurisdiction is trying to log in into your system and has all your details, it becomes difficult for that person to do that because you will be prompted that another person in another location is trying to have access to your device, and you'll be asked to verify whether you are the same person. So, in the instant where you receive that email and then you are not the person logging into your system, then you can quickly draw the attention of um, the administrators, and then an action is taken. Now, the same has to do with swiping. So, for example, if I have a card that I swipe always left at a very speed, let's say at 2 seconds to swipe in, and another person gets the same card and is swiping in the left direction and it's taking much longer than I do, again, another layer of security will be brought to question, and the person needs to enter in a password in order to have access to the system. So basically, that is zero login. So typically make use of biometric and behavior patterns to gain access. So for zero login, often there's no need for you to enter any password. So oftentimes people can easily forget their password, and so they make use of the fingerprints, which is difficult for a hacker or another person to steal your identity and use your device. The next one has to do with magnetic stripes. So typically, magnetic stripes are just cards with a magnetic layer at the back of the card, and it holds binary values. Basically, it holds your details, your ID, or it can hold your date of birth and some information that identify you as a user. So the card is used through you have to swipe it through a card reader in order to have access to whatever you intend to use. Common use include building. So if you want to access a building, some companies or individuals make use of the um, magnetic swipe card where you need to swipe the card in order to have access. Some banks also make use of it, and some hotels also make use of the same magnetic stripe in order to have access to your room. Now, the good thing about the card is that if you somehow misplace the card, it can be remotely deactivated so that the next person who has the card is not able to access any information of yours. So, this is a typical example of a magnetic card where the person's details are at the front, and then you have the magnetic stripe at the back of the card. There are some advantages to the use of the magnetic stripe card. Easy to use. There's no need for um, it's easy to use and not expensive, and it can be deactivated if you have lost it or someone has stolen it from you. Again, it can be used for multiple purposes. So you can have access card. It can be used as a payment card, and it can also use for buying things outside in some grocery shops. Some disadvantages of magnetic stripe cards: they are less secure because you don't need to have um, any extra form of identification. If another person steals the cards, they can easily have access to your data, and then they can copy it easily. The card can wear out with the frequent use because we keep swiping it through the card reader, and the frequent usage can cause it to wear out. Then the readers may also fail um, to read the card. I mean, when especially when it's the first time you are using it. Security layer, because there's no biometric method. I mean, it is not too safe. All right. Um, Security wise, it is lower than the biometric method of verification. So that is it about magnetic stripe. The smart card, on the other hand, make use of built-in chips and antennas that stores informations about the user, and it allows you to read it without physical contact. In other words, you do not need to swipe it like we do for the magnetic stripe. You don't have to swipe it through anything. It's contactless. So from a distance, you can have data on the card being read. So in the same sense, the is used often for security access. Now, in some instances, there's a need for a double verification where you need to enter in a PIN for extra security before access is granted. Um, Typically, you have some um, bank cards that are smart cards in the sense that you just have to um, tap it or from a distance from the POS, and is able to deduct money from your account. Now, however, with the same card, if the amount to be deducted is um, quite a large amount, you will need to access, you need to provide an extra layer of security by putting in a PIN before the money can be deducted from your account. So basically, that is it for smart cards. So in the picture here, we can see the features I've spoken about. So the first one, we have the built-in chip here that stores the information about the user. So typical information that is stored will be your name, the ID, and the PIN, of the card, right? Then you are able to present the card close to um, the system, and when the system requires you to verify, you go ahead to enter in a PIN, and that's exactly what we see in this picture here. So that is it about smart card. Next is the physical token. So physical token is hardware device that is used to confirm a user identity. So it provides a user that has the possession of the device an OTP or one-time password. And when the user inserts that card or token device into the computer, so in this case, as we see here, so it could either be the token in the form of a pen drive or a card, right? And when that is done, the token is generated, okay? And the person needs to enter the token. So first of all, the person will enter his or her password, and then once the password is entered, the next thing to enter will be the OTP in order for the person to have access to whatever system they are going to work on. Example, we have banking systems. They use these physical tokens to ensure that the real account owner is the only person that has access to the account. Next, we have electronic tokens. Work very similar to the physical token, but in this instance, you do not have a physical hardware device to slot in, but rather it is a software device that is used. And in this case, the user opens a token app on their phone. So you can either do it that way, or there's an app that generates a password, one-time password, and shared with the user electronically. And then the user will have to enter in their PIN and the OTP in order to have access. So in some instances, you can just use your fingerprint and the one-time password, and for you to have access to use the system you want to use. So typically, if you having a banking app or a mobile wallet and you want to make payment, often if you are using a mobile app or even with the USD, what happens is that the bank will share a token with you in order to authenticate whether you are the same person having your phone or your device. So once you receive the one-time password, you confirm it and enter in your password or username, or you can use biometric with either your fingerprint, but you need to confirm the one-time password in order to proceed to make payment. So that is it with electronic tokens. So that brings us to the end on authentication. So we've seen various ways by which we can enter into systems. Some test question to check our understanding whether we've really understood password and authentications. So this is some questions you are encouraged to attempt. So you may pause the video, take some few minutes, and attempt this question. Okay, so I want to believe you got the answers that have been provided below in the sample answer. So you can go back and check with the other advantages and disadvantages to see whether you got your answer right.